And I have to say, though, that very first ceremony that I sat with Kanna resonated so profoundly, deeply, and broadly for me because of how it was incredibly heart opening. And I had never in my life up to that point felt such profound love, that feeling of connection and interconnectedness with everything around me and everyone around me and everyone I didn't even know.
Whether you're a life coach, therapist, biohacker, invested in wellness, or in the healthcare profession, if you have an intention to work in psychedelic spaces, you're in the right place then. If you're called, get involved. But first, get informed. Let's talk the 4 N's: intake, intention, in-space integration, leading to deeper transformations. Psychedelic Coach Podcast, Talk Code. Walk you through the process, it's all possible. Leave space for the follow through. Most importantly, integration is not optional.
Welcome back. This is Cole Whitty with the Psychedelic Coach Podcast. Y'all, I'm so excited because today we have a special guest, someone we're teaming up with because we're so obsessed with our product. I was like, look, what do? I want to support you. I want to work with this every day. And so then well, then we need to do a podcast about it, because if you've been listening to the podcast for the last however many years, 225 episodes or whatever we're at now, you know that we haven't had any products or commercials or anything like that. And it was just because nothing felt aligned until now. And for us, if we're going to team up with something, it's actually because the collaboration. So I'm here, Taz here, and our friend Stephanie Wang is here. So today is going to be all about Kanna, y'all, her product, Khoi Empathogenics, her story. So let's just dive in. Stephanie, why don't you start with what is Khoi Empathogenics and how on earth did you end up creating this into your entire life right now?
First of all, I just want to thank the both of you to just even be here and be on the show and to share with everyone who's listening. I'm truly honored. And it's such an interesting reunion full circle moment, because in answering your question, actually the very first shamanic plant ceremony I ever had and ever did was with Kanna, and you were present as well, Cole. So it just feels like it's a real homecoming. So why did I do this? You know what? Since the Kanna ceremony, I've had ceremonies with ayahuasca, psilocybin, wachuma, like all kinds of different plants. And I have to say, though, that very first ceremony that I sat with Kanna resonated so profoundly, deeply, and broadly for me because of how it was incredibly heart opening. And I had never in my life up to that point felt such profound love, that feeling of connection and interconnectedness with everything around me and everyone around me and everyone I didn't even know. It wasn't like just want to be very clear, it was a very authentic feeling of oneness and connection and love. It wasn't like, oh my God, I feel high in a way that it's not me. It was more coming back to what was real. And I was so glad because first of all, we were with a whole bunch of people and all the masks came down. Everyone was just like themselves, warts and all. It didn't matter. And we were so comfortable just being ourselves. And it didn't matter how much money we made, what jobs we had, what we looked like. It was just about being here, being present, and being with each other in total authenticity. And that was so healing, even just that in itself, right? And, after the ceremony, I had since worked with Kanna for many years, like personally for 10 years. And I really wanted to bring this to more people outside of ceremony. Because if people could have this be accessible to them on a daily basis and integrate it into their lives, how amazing would that be? And quite honestly, my observation, and my passion has always been in consciousness and personal transformation and wellness. And my personal observation was that what the world needs truly is coming back to the heart. We're so good in our heads. We're so good intellectually and mentally that oftentimes that's the problem. We're just so focused in terms of into our thoughts that we are completely disassociated often from our feelings, first of all. So we can't even connect to ourselves, let alone fully be able to be present with another human being. And because of that, everybody feels disconnected and lost and sad and lonely. And no wonder, right? And you add on top of that, I got all the devices and the internet, social media, which has a veneer of connection, but it's not real human connection. And so Kanna for me is such an ally for us, such an amazing sacred plant ally to help us reconnect back to ourselves. And so the last 4 years, we started to do some deep dive into the science, and we did 4 years of R&D to come up with the first product, which is our Kanna Choose. And we call the company Empathogenics for a reason. Empathogenics because Kanna is an empathogen, and it's all about opening the heart and empathy and compassion and love. And Ka, Egyptian, is life force. So there's that. And of course, it's the sort of first syllable of Kanna. And also there's the exclamation mark because it's that life force, wow, coming alive moment. And it's also an homage to the roots of Kanna, which are indigenous, and Kanna comes from Southern Africa. So the indigenous Khoi Khoi and San people have been the stewards for this particular plant for thousands of years. And the exclamation mark in their alphabet is a, and so we just wanted to include that as well.
I love that. I love that. And so I want to even take it a step further. How did you what was your background in work that, because I always like to look back at my own path, what contributed, what skill sets and things did I learn that really helped me for more of my purpose-driven work now? So like past life situations, what was it that even led you to start to explore, empathogens and plant medicine and psychedelics? And we don't have to go super far into it, but I always love how people end up in this work when it was based off of their own journey versus like business opportunity.
Yeah, this had nothing to do with business opportunity, actually. My whole path and passion for all of this has to do with my own childhood, where there was trauma, I had experienced a lot of depression. I just didn't understand. As growing up, even into my 20s, I was like, this cannot be life. I just want to die. And I was at a point of feeling suicidal a few times, and it was really bad. And I just kept questioning. And that, even a little bit before that, I became a seeker to understand, like, what is it behind our own consciousness and what is it behind life that creates these situations, not just for myself, but for others as well, because I just saw it as something like I see other people also very depressed and I don't understand. And it just, to me at the time, it just seemed like life cannot possibly be like this. I do not believe that life can be like this or it should be like this. And I just went on a deep dive based on that, I guess, that trust initially, to find what the answer was. And I don't want to shortcut this or do any spiritual bypass, because I spent years and years doing a lot of deep healing work on myself through multiple different modalities. And I came into plant medicine and psychedelics about 10 years ago in 2013. And it was at that moment that I found the accelerator almost. So it's like I had done a lot of background healing work, but then when I came into plant medicine, it was like, whoa, I was able to integrate and also accelerate a lot of that learning that I needed to come to the next stage of my learning and evolution. And I have always felt that I owe a great debt, certainly to the plants, but also to the indigenous stewards of these plants, that now we, in the modern world, whether in the West or the East, we're rediscovering this, right? And I think it's super important to just remind people where this comes from. And if you look at who the stewards are, They are the indigenous who inherently understand the connection between human beings and nature, right? And they also understand the idea of reciprocity, that we are only one small part of what is the web of life. And there's so much humility in that. And, we have lost touch with that, I would say, foundational wisdom as human beings. And we've become lost as a result.
I love your perspective on things. And I really believe in my heart that the reciprocity, circumstance, and situation is tremendously important in this work. So thank you for offering back to where the source of things. I believe, I know that I am a derivative of source, of the source of all things. And so it is important for me to recycle things. I appreciate the way you're swinging that back around. I really do. So what makes you so passionate about this? I'd really love to hear what's driving the passion behind this.
Wow. First of all, I had to go through my own healing journey. And I know many people listening I'm sure people resonate with that. And then coming into the light at the end of the tunnel, it pains me, honestly, to see people suffering. And it's as plain as simple as that. And and not to say, look, listen, I'm still on my journey, right? And where I find the most joy and the most fulfillment is when I am actually in presence with others who are open-hearted. And why I'm passionate about consciousness and also about personal transformation, but I'm even more passionate about this idea of being heart-centered, because I see that as the key to our healing of this moment. We're not a race that needs help with the mind. We are a race that really needs to human race I'm talking about, that needs to reconnect the heart and mind. And if you look at, obviously, teachings from Buddhism, and they talk about it all the time, but in reality, even if you look at the science of it, which I would love to share if you guys would like me to,
please,
it speaks to that as well. And we're just happier and we're here more alive. We can create more meaning when we're heart connected. So on the scientific side, what's super interesting is that Kanna is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor and also a serotonin releasing agent. So on the releasing agent side, it's because it activates a protein called VMAT2. So you see, what works with serotonin in the brain and in the body in a very elegant dual way. And what it also does is it stimulates the receptors for GABA, for natural opioids, for cholecystokinin, and for melatonin. So that means it calms brain activity, it lifts mood and actually reduces pain. It suppresses hunger and thirst, but only the hedonic kind, which I will get to in a second, not for what you need to survive. And it actually prevents gut inflammation. And with the melatonin side of things, it helps improve sleep quality. So it actually works on multiple neuroreceptors, which is super different from some other substances or plants. For example, cannabis really just targets a particular set of neuroreceptors, whereas Kanna has this wide range of neuroreceptor activity, which makes it also an adaptogen. So here you have essentially a substance, a plant that is a legal psychoactive, that's an empathogen and also an adaptogen, which means it helps recalibrate you and balance you out and bring you back. It's like resetting. It's like resetting to factory settings, and it brings you back to who you are. Beautiful, right? So when we're able to get out of that sort of fight or flight emergency mode, we go from being super narrow focused and super egocentric to being able to see, oh, wow, there's so much out here. Oh, wow, I see a solution now here and here, when before I could see nothing and I'm just in fear, right? And anxiety. And it's so when it starts to work on, when the alkaloids, which are mainly mesembrine and mesembrinone and mesembrinol, start to work on the brain, that's what happens. So suddenly there's more space emotionally, physically, and also spiritually. And you expand a bit. And that feeling, and I encourage you to try the Kanna choose, because that feeling will migrate from your head down into your heart and extend throughout your body. And it's this sigh and relaxation and going, oh, wow, I can breathe and I can notice more what's around me. Color's a little bit brighter. I'm breathing better. I'm not so panicked. And I can see more solutions. I can be more creative. And my cognitive ability also improves. So I'm better able to focus and problem solve. And my memory is even better. So these are a lot of the common sort of effects and what people report when they take Kanna, when they take Ka. And Ka is different in a little bit, just to explain to people, from just pure Kanna, because what we've done is we've created this patent pending formulation where we have essentially created this synergistic formulation where there's other plants involved that work really nicely together with Kanna to enhance its life-giving ability. And those other plants are snow lotus and acmella. And one is an amazing anti-inflammatory, which is snow lotus. And by the way, it's the highest growing plant in the world. It grows above 21,000 feet. And it's great for helping us maintain homeostasis. It's great for circulation. Oh my God, I could go on and on. Many other benefits. And acmella is an incredible antimicrobial. And it's what gives you the tingle when you actually try the chews. And it's basically cleansing your palate with its antimicrobial activity, and it's stimulating your salivary glands for absorption. So a lot of stuff is happening. And we created this into a chew that doesn't have any elastomers or sugars or chemicals or preservatives, because we wanted it super clean. And so it's actually completely pH neutral. So most gummies have a lot of sugar, and so obviously it's a little acidic. It's not so great for your body, whereas our chews are completely pH neutral, and we made it that way. And we also created it through a process which does not use any heat at all. So all the plant ingredients are super alive and very bioactive because there's no degradation.
Wow, I really thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your passion in that space. That's what I was looking for. Coming from a person I'm a body geek. I'm a human person geek. I love people and the chemical interactions and stuff and how we work. And just the fact that the idea that comes through around making this product pH neutral so that the body can actually do whatever it chooses from a very foundational space to absorb or to move things out, or that, I think that's brilliant. I have yet to hear about anybody creating anything like this. Or this is a very unique product that you're offering. But the idea that you've put so much love into this to make sure that there's no extra stuff in it that would be wonky, and that you got the pH to be neutral, man, I'm stoked. So excited. How many people are you working with in creating something so awesome? How much research have you done?
Oh, we've done a ton of research, and I just want to just give a big shout out to the team, to our chief scientist, Alex Ott, to our entire marketing team. It's been a journey full of challenges, as it always is the case. Honestly, I feel so fortunate and so blessed, because the team is what makes this all go around, right? And I just have so much love for them, and just want to say how much I appreciate them. And quite honestly, creating this company and the products, it's been about service, right? Honestly. And anytime we've come into difficulty, we actually ask Kanna, we ask the spirit of Kanna. We're like, we need some help. We need some guidance. How can we move forward? What is the best way? And how can we best serve? And actually, I will share something that I don't usually tell people, is that prior to even beginning any kind of business, anything, I actually went with an Arahuaco Mamo from Colombia who actually was visiting, and then we subsequently became good friends. And I asked him, I said, we need to ask for permission, speaking of reciprocity, permission from Pachamama, from Madre Tierra, to see whether we are allowed to do this, right? Because we're actually taking plants from different places, not just from the South American tradition, but from many other traditions. And so we did that and got that blessing before we even started to do anything. And right now we're actually looking to, and it's been a bit challenging, we're looking to find our own sort of give back with a local Khoi Khoi and San organization in South Africa. So we started one partnership, but it's difficult for multiple reasons, for political reasons, for organizational reasons, but that is something we are in the process of doing. And we only purchase from suppliers who actually do direct profit share with the Khoi Khoi and the San.
That's amazing. Like, what type of plant is Kanna? Is it a bush? Is it a flower?
It's a succulent.
It's a succulent.
Yeah. It's a
I
succulent.
love succulents.
Do you? I know, me too. And I'll share a little bit of how the indigenous, which have traditionally taken it or used it, because I think it really helps us and gives us a context in this modern day of how we can use it and work with her. So traditionally, super interesting, the indigenous Khoisan used to take Kanna when they went on multi-day hunts. So they did that to reduce stress and anxiety, and also to help enhance focus and endurance. So another thing is Kanna really helps you with your cognitive abilities and focus. And it also helps sustain energy because of how mesembryanone, which is one of its alkaloids, inhibits an enzyme called PDE4, which allows us to access more energy in our body. So they used to take Kanna on these, you can imagine, like multi-day hunts to also suppress their hunger and thirst, so they keep going so they can catch the prey, right? And so there's that traditional use. They also used Kanna for medicinal purposes, for abdominal and digestion issues, for pain relief, and for mental issues, for mental health issues, for stress and anxiety. And they also used Kanna for celebration. They used it recreationally. So whenever they got people together and wanted to celebrate, that was a great mood lifting and joyful occasion, and Kanna was there. And interestingly, they also used to share Kanna with others during conferences and when they had to resolve conflict. So that's super interesting. Just imagine you're sitting with a bunch of people, maybe you don't agree with each other, and everybody shares Kanna, and suddenly now you're talking not from so much from the head, you're speaking from the heart, and you're really hearing each other. You're hearing each other's pain, complaints, whatever they want to express. And they used to find it very helpful for obviously, eliminating, or really ameliorating conflict and connecting with each other to solve whatever it is that needed to be, whatever issues the group and community had. So that's super interesting. And then finally, spiritually, they also took Kanna as a means to commune and communicate with their ancestors and with spirit.
So awesome. When I consider the healing space, the healing field for any human being is when we are in the utmost of safety. We can get into a relaxation space. And if we are outside of safety, and we have the way we work, we teach our coaches about safety, connection, and fulfillment being the 3 points of ease that all of your emotions drive around. When people are in conflict, something's not safe. And so to be able to get into a space where you become safe with yourself and all of your full expression and safe with another person's expression, the tension in the entire field around everybody comes down. It has to come down out of the head and into the other aspects of the self so that the other aspects of the self can participate. And I think it's wonderful to have a substance that doesn't take you so far out of your cognition into a space where you can't be in a relative connection with somebody and still have that empathogenic space where you can actually perceive yourself, be in your own space, and perceive someone else and allow them and support them in being in their own space, we can be in a space of cognition that's different. And I think this is a huge part of the work that Cole and I do with people is we are supporting people in being sovereign in all of their feelings, all of their expressions, all of their experiences, and also not just tolerating, accepting, welcoming another person's expression in safety so that we can all come together and connect. When we are not safe, we can't connect. We get this, or we run around each other. We have the fight or we have the flight. And so this is a wonderful space. I'm excited about this. And there are a lot of people Cole's mentioned about Ka on our social media and stuff, and people are super excited about it. So I'm excited to see what's next with this. Really excited.
And Ty, what about your experience? What about your experience?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say is the perfect segue of what even had me reach back out to you. So when you first launched it, we tried it just because it was you, right? So you're launching, we're like, let's try it. But when I tried it then, I did 2 or 3 times a week. And when I caught back up with you, and I enjoyed it then, but as we were talking, you were like, I did it for 30 days and the working with it daily was measurable for me. Like I really felt a difference in my well-being overall. And so I was like, but I'm going to try it for 30 days. Like that just resonated in my body when you said it. And this is partially why for us, we say what you don't track, you don't change. And why with the Condor approach, having daily things to check in on, you can miss it, especially when you're working with microdosing of anything. There's subtlety. And if you're caught up in your head, you can miss the subtlety of the presence of a moment, or being able to take a deep breath before conflict, or as you're stepping into challenging conversations. And as I got to about day 12 or so, getting into that second week, I realized how many days in succession I really felt like, you said earlier, more me. I felt more patient. I felt more open. I felt more who I believe myself to be, and who I'm doing all the work for is that version of myself that I feel good in, that resonates, that feels complete for me. And so I kept going through the entire month, and I was like, I'm in. This is great. I need this in my life every day, because being in the space this long, I've tried lots of supplements, from CBD to protein supplements to, I'm always exploring other supportive tools and microdosing. And for me, there hasn't been any other plant that I wanted more of a daily relationship with, in more of a microdosing kind of space. And I really saw how profound I felt like this would be, even though we're not serving clients in the States, how many of them now we're just focused more on coaches, but how many of our coaches, this is the perfect place for them to integrate around, having their monthly integration circles, or having them, because they have their clients go through the Condor approach, this combination of self-awareness and a master teacher plan. That was my experience, was everything that you said at the beginning of the podcast. I felt grounded, centered. I felt very clear, and I felt just a layer of lightheartedness to how I was approaching things, and very efficient in how I was doing it. And this is one of the things I think so often, especially right now with all the documentaries and all the things coming out online on the research, it's still this attachment in a consumeristic fashion that more is more, more is better, versus the subtlety of the daily, of how can I bring ceremony into my daily life with something like Kanna, to remember, not to always have some big blowout experience, because honestly, those take more time and energy to integrate. And I have found that with a lot of the people we've worked with, when we say for 30 days, if someone was going to go down to Costa Rica, someone's going to go to Peru, if they spent 30 days journaling and with Kanna in preparation for their heart and their mind and their body, even before they went for any bigger experience, how much more impactful, because of that presence and that preparation, or I would say more fruitful because there's just more awareness brought to yourself for the experience that's coming. So for me, I'm a huge fan. That's why we're here. Because I was like, I want to know everything, do everything, support everything.
Oh my God, that just thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Cole. And thank you, Ta. And it just makes me so happy when I hear this, because this is why Ka exists. It's here to support people, whoever it may be. And that's the whole reason. That's the raison d'etre, right? And I have to add, just so that everybody knows, Kanna is not habit forming, just so everybody is clear. And it is safe to take every day. And it's not addictive. So in fact, it's actually used to treat addiction in South Africa. And just to keep, if anybody's worried about that, it's completely the opposite, actually. And Kanna is also very neuroprotective, neuroregenerative. And so anybody who's out there seeing, oh, is Kanna the new or nature's MDMA? Because like that, there's that meme going around. It's not. It is and it's not. It only is in terms of similarity in that heart open, like that heart oneness feeling. And you're not going to feel the same way as MDMA. MDMA is much more intense, but Kanna is more subtle. But besides that, there's nothing similar. So just to say, Kanna is first of all, is a plant. It's not synthetic, whereas MDMA is. And MDMA, if you take it over a long period of time, it damages your neurotransmitter system. It basically is neurodegenerative, whereas Kanna is neuroprotective and neuroregenerative. So there's that. And of course, there's all the side effects that MDMA has, the risk of hyperthermia, addiction, and some other negative side effects as well.
So could you share for people who don't know what neuroregenerative and neuroprotective, what that means?
Neuroprotective in that it's actually, Kanna is a plant that helps protect your neurotransmitter system because of how it works because of its alkaloids and how it works on those multiple neural pathways. So it's actually there to support you to have less stress and less anxiety. And so there's that aspect. And it doesn't do so in a way that, and I may not be explaining this super well because I'm not a biologist or I'm not a molecular biologist or biochemist, and I'm happy to share more on that a little bit later. But it does what it does without damaging the nervous system, basically. So
awesome. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I always like to bring it back to the basics because there are people who do listen to the podcast that have no idea what neuro means. And so I always like to bring it back to that.
It protects the nervous system. And I actually wanted to add something else to what you were saying, Cole. If you're talking about preparation, I also want to say that if people are doing ceremony, taking the kachus is great in between ceremonies to reconnect to that feeling, because oftentimes people always report, oh, I want to still, I'm not going to do another ceremony for a long time, or I want to still get into that feeling of what it's like to remind myself of everything that I experienced. That's a great way to have a mini session with yourself. But more importantly, it's there for integration. So post-ceremony, often serotonin is super depleted. So taking a chew is actually great for post-ceremony when you're coming back into your body, and also for replenishing your serotonin. And what's interesting is from I would say a shamanic cosmology standpoint, Kanna is considered heart medicine. So allow me to explain. Ayahuasca, psilocybin, a lot of people heard of that. It's considered plant medicine from that perspective. It's considered spirit medicine from that perspective. So it brings you into consciousness through spirit. So it takes you out of the body. Whereas Kanna is considered heart medicine. It brings you into consciousness through the heart. So it's actually through your body and your heart, it brings you back here. And that's a major difference. And that's why Kanna and Ka are so great for integration. and for that process, like you were explaining earlier, Cole, because it's bringing us back to ourselves, to our, how should I say, our native selves before becoming dysregulated.
And it is, there are so many master teachers in plant, animal, and fungi form that when I watch people chase ayahuasca, iboga, 5-MeO, these God molecules, as many people will call them, these spirit molecules, there is also often a bypassing of the body where people are leaving their human experience so far that when they come back, they don't know how to make adjustments or improvements in their life because what they experienced when the oneness, but what does that mean when you come back to the part that is connected to the oneness, but is still the part, right? I have my body, but then there's my finger, and sometimes my finger needs attention, not separate from the body, but because it is something that needs a focus. So when people not separate from the oneness, but remember they are the finger of God or goddess or absolute, that what does that mean? And so having a daily practice, having altars and rituals and check-ins and all of that is so important because, like you said, I hear so often people say, I need to go journey again because I've forgotten. But the reason people forget is because they don't bring any rituals or daily reminders, and it could be anything.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then they forget versus repetition. If you go stay in any country for 30 days immersive, you start to learn the language. The second you remove yourself, if you don't continue the practice, you lose it. Doesn't mean you can't gain it back in the remembering. Yeah. And so this is something why for me, if I was to wave a magic wand and have one wish for humanity, it was to start in learning the subtlety, or at least once you've had that big connection, practicing in the in-between in the subtlety. Because if you become reliant on these big experiences to connect, you're actually training your body that I will only pay attention if there is a hard redirect, or it has to be like a car accident, a cosmic 2x4 of sorts to my life for me to recognize I'm not on the right path for me, or I'm falling off track. And so I watch, especially with many high performance entrepreneurs, this attachment to the harder or bigger or faster. And they are so resistant to this subtlety. And for me, that is the skill that needs to be learned, because for my experience, spirit speaks through the body and through signs and symbols in the environment. And if you don't slow down, you miss them. You miss the God that's showing up in front of you everywhere.
You miss life.
Only do it. Yes.
You miss life entirely, the point of it, really. And you're just busy. And it's then next thing you know, you're dead. So you said it so beautifully, Cole, just now. It is in the subtlety. And there's so much space in that if we could just allow ourselves to be there. And just hearing that again, just literally reactivated the Ka. I took Ka earlier today, and like it's just reactivated in myself. And when we keep thinking there's not enough time, there's never enough of anything. When, there's a magic, and this is not logical, by the way, and you should not even try to think of this logically because it's experiential. It's experiential. Until you are able to slow down, you will understand. And there's this, we're so fortunate because we have this major teaching master plant, which is Kanna. And she teaches in a very different way. She comes in a very feminine way. And I think that's also why I believe it's so powerful in this time and day. And by that, I do not mean it's for women. I do not mean it's not for men or not for women or whatever it is. The point is, it actually helps balance us out. It brings us into that space that is very powerful through the subtle action, because it's actually guiding us to access our own wisdom that is already here in our bodies.
So awesome. Thank you for that. beautiful description of this. And that brings me into the space that I wanted to talk about my experience. And
Yes, please do.
my experience with Kyle was really interesting. I went for about 2.5, almost 3 weeks. And then there was travel and stuff. So I got pulled out of it. And so I noticed around maybe the end of week 2, I started to feel very connected with everything in some really different ways that I hadn't experienced before. And it was really subtle and like really subtle, but it was almost like I had more, I was able to do more and be consumed by less. I was able to be fully present. It was almost like I had tentacles. And if you could imagine, like my energy was touching everything. I could perceive everything that was going on without being overwhelmed by it. That was really powerful for me because I'm focusing on so many things with our business. And we had just done a training and we had all of these things going on at the same time, moving this back and forth and traveling and all of these things. And I was able to be fully present with all of it outside of being overwhelmed and being able to focus in one space at a time without getting lost in the, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. And it was this myriad of things that were going on that were really subtle that I was able to navigate and manage and participate in an easy space. And this is the best way that I have right now, the most clear way I have right now to describe this. There was so many things happening and I was able to navigate them all at once. And when you were talking about the feminine energy of it and that Ka is feminine, this space holds true for me. And I see masculine and feminine energy like this. Masculine energy is direct, it's logical, it's ordered, it's focused, right? It's guiding. I see the feminine energy as chaotic, as encompassing, as welcoming, as all possibility. And so the expansiveness of the feminine energy would be outer space and all of the things that are in the universe. That's the expansive possibilities, the limitless possibilities. But when I look at feminine energy, you know what? Forget about the universe example. I'm going to go with water, right? So the ocean is a huge, expansive container of all this possibility with limitless amounts of water molecules that are moving around that encompass all of this and contain all of the chaos of the ocean. But when you take water and you drop it on the sidewalk, the water actually goes very subtly into every crack and nuance in the sidewalk, down into the cracks, down into maybe the soil that's around it, nourishing whatever microorganisms. That's the subtlety of feminine energy that gets into everything. And that's what I was feeling like I was experiencing after that second week, is I was able to have all of this nuance and all of these different perspectives and feelings. And I was able to tap into each one without being overwhelmed or having to focus in one space at a time. I was able to perceive all of these things. I'm still dialing into that. This is the subtle space that is magical about the experience that I had with Kanna, with Ka.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's amazing. And it's a beautiful description of the penetration and of how this plant works. And it's interesting because I suffer from overwhelm. And for me, because I do take Ka every day, it keeps me super even keeled and not going into that space. I'm someone naturally who already just the way I see things is I see everything at once. And that is incredibly overwhelming. And especially now, because as a startup CEO, you can relate, right? It can be very debilitating. But ever since I started taking Ka, same thing. I go, okay, I see everything that I need to do, but I can handle, I do this first. And then this is the second thing I need to do. And that I don't need to do till later. So I'm not even going to worry about it. And it just helps me cohere everything in a way that's manageable. And I don't go into that overwhelmed space. And you also said something earlier, and I'm really feeling this right now. So I'm going to talk about intimacy and how Ka and Kanna help with intimacy. when we're able to open our hearts and be there with each other, it's actually super sexy, because it actually is a moment where you can have those, I don't know, those deep conversations, and it just brings people closer. So I'm curious if you guys felt that as a couple at all.
I mean, there was definitely a huge difference in Cole's
Touchy.
mood, in the way Cole touches me. All of these things, it was wonderful. And so I'm thumbs up. I love to be touched. Touch is that's my number one love language, is physical touch. Just clearing my throat. Yeah, physical touch is my love language. And so I noticed a tremendous difference in Cole with her ability to be present with me with the Kanna situation. So I'm a huge fan. So you can't, you get the thumbs up. Please touch me some more. But this is the thing, right? With masculine and feminine energy, I'm just going to say this and I'll let Cole talk about her experience with it. But masculine and feminine energy, they marry one another, and there's always this is when we talk about sex, right? I remove the idea that it has to be coitus interruptus or physical sexual intercourse, right? But the marriage of the masculine and feminine energy, the positive and the negative, the yin and the yang, is I offer, you receive. You offer, I receive. I offer, you receive. You offer, I receive. And it becomes this tantra, and then we weave them together, and then we're in this intimacy together. And I feel like the world right now is in this space with the masculine energy. Everything is do now, do this, be direct here, in all of these different directions. And so if we're not allowing the receipt of the energy and to have it and to have it nudged and moved forward, we're not actually allowing the masculine energy to guide. And I feel like I've been masculinizing everything. Everything is, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. It has to be in this order. It has to be in this order. And so I haven't allowed myself the settling in and the allowing of the information to actually process fully. And I believe that for me, that's part of what Ka has supported me within the last 2 months. Cole,
Fabulous.
It's on you. Back to you.
Going with what you said around the difference in the connection between us, what I really attribute that to was when I'm more relaxed and in my more authentic self, then I am more touchy. Because I'm present and I know his love language, and because I know his love language, I can also keep that in the forefront, because the moment I'm stressed or fight or flight, I contract away from the world and I can only focus on what's in front of me, which has its gifts at times, because when you're building a business, of all of the adaptations of trauma, that one does serve me well at times. But being in that more heart open place, having things slowed down. And I do think that point when it comes to building a business where there is just so much that for me, I can give myself permission to take breaks at times, because it's like trying to eat an elephant that just regenerates itself every time you take a bite. So you realize there is no end. Like, it's impossible. So
true.
I'm really excited for more people to experience it, and really reminding that this is subtle work. And so if you're quote unquote not feeling anything, then really dropping it even deeper to the breath to create space to feel. We get caught up in all the mind things. I've only got 10 minutes. I got to pick up the kids at 4. I've got a work meeting. I have this. When I truly believe that between the Condor approach and Ka, and choosing one song from your last journey that you felt connected to, if it had a playlist or one that you connect in your heart, to sit with Kanna, imbibe with Kanna, sit with your song, then journal and see how the day goes, just by taking 3 to 5 minutes of creating space for the subtlety, to tell a master teacher plan, oh, it's beautiful to see you. Maybe we have a wonderful, beautiful day together, versus it's a supplement that you just throw back on the counter and take it with your B vitamins. And honestly, I want to do that with everything that I decide to integrate with my body. And as we wrap up today's session, Stephanie, something we didn't talk about was some of the contraindications or things people do need to be aware of with Kanna. And then of course, y'all I know you've been listening. You're like, yeah, but how do I get some? There's a link in the show notes. You can go get some right now. And please do. And which is also why I want to include there are things you have to be aware of with Kanna. So can you share some of those?
Absolutely. So before I actually even go into that, I just wanted to add, double tap on what you just said about intention. So bringing intention in, that's how, I don't know, for people out there who've already done plant medicine work, intention is a big deal. Intention is really important before we take anything into our body, especially if it's a sacred plant. And in this case, it is. Absolutely have an intention for the day before you take it in. And that does a few things. You're actually signaling and you're actually saying, hey, Spirit of Kanna, let's have a relationship. I want to work with you, right? Show me, I'll listen to you. And what you're doing is you're really saying that to yourself. You're actually having the respect for yourself and also for this plant teacher to come into this relationship of healing. Or it doesn't have to be just healing. It can be thriving. And I do want to emphasize that. So it's not, oh, there's something broken and needs to be fixed. No, it's about thriving as human beings. So that's super, super helpful and powerful to do. And in terms of what to look out for, so the contraindication for Kanna is anyone who's taking SSRIs or MAOIs or SNRIs should not be taking Ka. And if, let's say, I'm just going to use Prozac as an example, right? If someone's on Prozac, but they want to try Ka, best is to safely and speak to your physician of how to wean yourself off of that before you try Ka. And we've had people who have done that and it's worked out really nicely. Also, I want to say to people who have taken any time in their life, doesn't have to be present moment, anyone who's taken amphetamine salts like Adderall in their life, they're going to need likely maybe 2 or 3 chews first, when that's going to be the first dose, not just 1 chew, because of that medical history or because of the way that they used to take that. And then slowly over the next few weeks, they can wean themselves back to the lower normal dose. They just need a higher dose to begin with. And also another thing to note, which is very interesting, is that recent studies have shown that serotonin reuptake inhibitors don't work so well with people who have a lot of inflammation. What happens is, and this is still very good news, because what they do, same thing with Ka and Kanna, because they're very anti-inflammatory, is that it will first go to lower inflammation and histamine in your body before you start to feel the lift. So for people who have a lot of inflammation in the body and they take the chew and they're like, oh my God, I'm not feeling anything, that may be one of the reasons, which is another reason why we always encourage people to try it every single day consistently. Because what happens if you don't feel it immediately, usually after 3 or 5 days, people are like, oh, okay, I get it now. I feel it now. And also do not be afraid to double the dose. Some people need 2 a day, actually. Some people only need half or quarter a day. Every single body is literally unique with its unique distribution of neuroreceptors and genetics. And so everybody, again, is encouraged to open this up for themselves, and you've got to feel into it and you adjust it accordingly. Mm-hmm. So you're totally fine if you want to take 2 or 3 chews at a go. Just don't exceed. You can go to the FAQ a certain amount a day, but you're fine. And the other thing is sometimes people experience a little bit, and we always encourage people to try it on an empty stomach. If people experience some nausea, usually there's a wave of it initially if people have never had Kanna, just for some people, okay? And it'll usually pass. If it persists, then don't take it on an empty stomach. Take it with food. So adjust accordingly, and you are always welcome, of course, to reach out to us at Kind Pathogenics and just email us on the contact form or DM us, and we can come back to you with answers to your questions. And what else do you need to watch out for? Let me think. That's it, really. And honestly, there is no one size fits all. And for some people, it may just not work because of their genes. And there's nothing more to be said about that. But don't dismiss it before you've actually tried it and followed what I just said.
Mm-hmm. What you said is our rule of thumb too. 30 days straight, try it, right? And we say 30 days of journaling. I really think the two are a beautiful pairing, and this has been a beautiful conversation and share. And for those listening, you get 10% off using our ambassador link in the show notes. So please do let us know how it goes. We want to hear all about it. When you get it in the mail and you get the Condor approach in the mail, tag us. Tag Ka Empathogenics. We love you so incredibly much, and we're going to keep bringing you more epic ways to integrate, because integration is not optional. Ta Witty, give us our final outro here, and we'll close out today's show.
Yeah, before we do that, Stephanie, just tell them where to find you on Instagram and the social medias.
Yeah, our Instagram is ka.empathogenics. And you can find that, if you can't find it, go to our website, ohmyka.com, ohmyka.com, and you'll see it there. And you can also contact us through that website. And I just also want to take this opportunity to say, I love you guys, and I'm so excited. Condor Approach is amazing. I cannot wait to start this collaboration, this partnership with you guys, and just all for integration. That's where it's all at.
That's what it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you and love you so deeply. Appreciate you. And everyone who's listening, thank you. Take a moment to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Please share this with somebody you know it'll help. And remember,
integration is not optional.